High upon the Blue Ridge peaks, the relentless mountain wind knows no mercy. It slowly erodes the ancient cliffs and the weary souls of those living here. Silas was a man shaped by this environment, a horse herder with eyes the color of cold ashes left behind after a long, devastating forest fire. He stands alone on the ridge, a solitary figure against the vastness of the wild, watching the valley below as shadows stretch across the rugged terrain. The air is biting cold as the first light of dawn struggles to pierce through the thick pine forests and the heavy grey mist of 1870. Every movement he makes is deliberate, his calloused hands gripping the leather reins with a strength born from years of survival in this unforgiving high country. Then came the iron horse, a steam engine chugging through the wilderness, breathing black smoke into the pale sky as it reached the lonely, remote station. Willa stepped down from the dusty carriage, her long dress catching the mountain breeze, clutching a small wooden chest that held all her precious worldly possessions. She arrived on a late autumn evening, carrying books that still smelled of fresh ink and a heart filled with the courage of a true pioneer. Looking out at the harsh landscape, she did not flinch. Her spine remained straight and her eyes fixed on the horizon, ready for the challenges ahead. She was the only woman brave enough to accept a teaching position in this cradle of storms, where the wild terrain dictates the rules of life. The station was a mere skeleton of wood and iron, a solitary outpost marking the boundary between civilization and the untamed reaches of the deep forest. Her first steps on the porch were greeted by the sharp creak of a loose wooden plank, a sound that would soon become a familiar rhythm. Inside the small log cabin, Silas silently pushed a steaming mug of dark coffee across the rough-hewn wooden table toward her, offering a quiet welcome. They sat across from each other in the dim light. The silence between them heavy but not uncomfortable, as the fire began to crackle in the hearth. Between these two souls, words were rarely necessary. Empathy was measured by the small, consistent actions that spoke much louder than any spoken promise. The language of the solitary is spoken through the sound of a familiar footfall or the warmth of a drink prepared before the sun even rises. Outside, the trees swayed in the rising wind, but inside the cabin, the atmosphere was beginning to shift from cold isolation to a shared sanctuary. Then the winter arrived with a vengeance. A massive blizzard blankets the village, turning the world into a chaotic swirl of white ice and freezing wind. Silas struggled against the howling gale, dragging heavy sacks of grain to the stables to ensure his horses were fed and sheltered from the frost. Inside the makeshift schoolroom, Willa lit a flickering oil lamp, its golden glow illuminating the pages as she patiently taught the children their first letters. The storm roared outside, threatening to tear the roof from its beams, but the teacher's voice remained steady as she shared knowledge in the darkness. Silas stood like a sentinel outside the schoolhouse door, his body a shield against the elements, quietly ensuring the safety of the woman and children. Winter at Blue Ridge is a crucible that tests the limits of physical endurance and the hidden depths of the human spirit in the face of adversity. In the heart of the storm, they found a connection rooted in shared responsibility and the silent vow to protect the most fragile aspects of life. When the blizzard finally subsided, the kitchen became a place of refuge, filled with the sweet, rich aroma of molasses boiling slowly on the stove. The golden sunlight began to filter through the frost-covered windows, casting long, warm shadows across the floor as the world outside started to settle into peace. Silas sat nearby, his knife moving rhythmically as he carved a piece of cedar wood, his hardened expression finally beginning to soften in her gentle presence. He looked up at her, and for the first time, his eyes did not reflect the ash of a fire, but the warmth of a new beginning. A rare and gentle gesture followed as Silas placed a hand lightly on Willa's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of the respect he felt for her strength. The scent of the hearth and the sound of the bubbling pot shuatan the lingering chill, creating a home where once there was only survival. In this rugged land, love is not found in grand declarations, but in the steady, unwavering presence of another human being when the storms have passed. As the seasons turned, the snow melted away to reveal a carpet of vibrant wildflowers blooming across the high mountain meadows under the bright spring sun. The entire Blue Ridge Range seemed to wake up, glowing with a renewed energy that matched the transformation taking place within the hearts of its inhabitants. Silas and Willa stood together at the edge of the ridge, looking down at the winding trail that led back toward the small, growing mountain town. She had come here with nothing but her integrity and a desire to teach, and now she walked with the confidence of someone who truly belonged. Her smile was a testament to the journey they had shared, a quiet victory over the isolation that once defined her life in the high wilderness. Silas led his horse beside her, his steps synchronized with hers, two figures moving in harmony across the vast, beautiful landscape of their shared home. Their story remains etched in the peaks, a reminder that home is built not of stone, but of the deep empathy and courage of the brave.